Hello and welcome to our Tuesday morning Corn-Fed Sports in the Morning show. My name is Pat Radigan and I'm being joined by Cade McFadden this morning. Cade, how you doing?
Good.
That's good. We're just starting off our weekly cycle now here. So like I said yesterday, we're going to be doing a show every single day this week, and we're going to try and have as many guests and fun sort of features instead of just us talking back and forth. But for now, we'll jump right back into our Corn-Fed 5. That's we lead off every day with our Corn-Fed 5, our 5 big headlines for the day. So our first headline comes to us from the world of Husker baseball. So Cade, why don't you get us started with that?
All right. Tonight, the Husker baseball team is set to host Creighton for a midweek matchup at Hawks Field. Game is at 6:30, and we're looking at Brandon Pierce making the start tonight. The pitching for the Huskers has needed some consistency lately, and they're looking for that as they go on to play Ohio State this weekend. A nice, tough test coming in the Buckeyes.
Definitely, and I think that when you see the matchup of a midweek team like Creighton, I mean, in the big test tonight, it's going to be whether or not the game's even played. Thunderstorms start, and they're supposed to start at 4 o'clock today, 80% chance precipitation then, 60% chance precipitation starting at 6 o'clock. So you might see some weather issues with tonight's game, but no matter what, coming into the weekend at the Buckeyes, whether it's the Creighton game tonight or whether it's just some adjustments they make during the midweek, trying to find at least some burst of some innings, some burst of consistency, at least don't make the bullpen work as hard as they have in some situations is going to be big for the baseball. And I also think that players like Chad Christensen and Cash Kalkowski, Cash getting his first home run of the year this last weekend, there's some of the guys who have become the veterans in the lineup and the team need to rely on. The younger guys began the lineup saying when Eddie, Pat Kelly, those guys have been contributing, but if you can find some consistency throughout the lineup, get some more homers, get some of the long balls. Josh Shepard still dealing with some arm issues. Get somebody who can hit the ball deep and get some runs without just playing small ball, without just doing some of the little things they've needed to do to get runs. I think being able to take a couple big swings and get a couple runs from those kind of things from those type of players will be crucial. So we'll move on to Husker softball here in second one. Why don't you keep us updated there?
All right. The Husker softball team, because of the inclement weather coming, they've already postponed their doubleheader with Minnesota on Wednesday. However, they did wrap up a 7-game road trip, finishing up 5-2, and are now 6-2 in Big Ten play. And they're going to have to keep this hot playing, good pitching, good hitting up as they got a nice tough test coming also this weekend here in Lincoln against Wisconsin, another top 25 ranked team.
Yeah, and I think that as everybody says, you just got to keep up some of the momentum they've had recently. Start slow against Iowa. They'll drop the game one, but they come back, run rule Iowa the next day, get the win, take the series win on Sunday, and just accomplish some of the things they really need to do at this point in the season. And I think when you look at the situation with Minnesota on Wednesday, obviously you never know what the weather's going to do. You never know whether or not you're going to be able to play it. But the key situation here is that if they had left, per Big Ten rules, if they had left Minneapolis to come down here and play and the games weren't able to be played, they'd be canceled and they couldn't be made up. And last year Nebraska lost some conference games to weather. They lost some of those kind of things. It gets towards the end of the year and you think, wow, they're behind these teams and they've played less games. If only they had those games back. And this is kind of one of those things where they can have a team, a good Minnesota team who's also got a solid Big Ten record right up there with Nebraska in the standings. And if you can get a couple wins over a team like that, Minnesota's going to have a strong RPI playing in the league. And so I think that getting some more games, getting some more things like that to bolster an NCAA resume is big for Nebraska, because obviously they plan, at the home stadium, they plan on winning the both of them. They plan on, they think that's something they can do. So to go out there and be able to do that, to move the games back to April 16th is big for them, so that they can actually get some competition, get some Big Ten play on their get on their record and move up the conference standings a little bit, hopefully. So we'll switch it up here. We go from softball and baseball. We'll go to some of the one of the winter sports wrapping up. So with our third Corn-Fed 5, we'll move to men's gymnastics. Or no, sorry, I messed that up. The next one, sorry, that's coming up in number 4. We're going to stay with some of the outdoor. Actually, men's track just got to the outdoor season, so we're going to move on. Number 3 is actually coming to us. The Nebraska men's track and field team was able to get a win and an invite this last weekend. So why don't you tell us about the track and field squad?
Yes, nice win for the track and men's team down in Alabama this last weekend. They finished with 149 points and had a great performance from their thrower, Chad Wright. He won his second discus title of the outdoor season so far and now ranks 5th in the country and 1st in the Big Ten. The women's team also did very well. They finished 2nd, and the men's and women's team combined totaled for 7 individual titles for the weekend, which is just great.
It's a big weekend for them getting back outside. Obviously, the throwers are going to feel, although it was exciting in the chat, Wright actually did get to do an indoor discus this year. They had it at the over at the Cook Pavilion at the Campus Rec Center. So they did do an indoor discus, but to get out there, he's won the first two. He also won the shot put title this weekend. Morgan Wilkin took home the women's discus, so the Nebraska throws team is showing their strength a little bit there, no pun intended. But the big story of the weekend was the Nebraska, the men's team and the effort they put out there. Miles Ukeoma was able to get a win and post the top time in the Big Ten, the 400-meter hurdles. He posted a time of 50.80 seconds. Jaron Hang, who's actually been on this show before, was able to get second in the 300 meters. So they had a bunch of those kind of performances, first and second. They had a bunch of guys coming in third. They had some relay teams finishing fourth. So just showing that team strength. And the women, coming off the conference championship last year in the indoor season, coming off some of the things they did. Now the Husker men are stepping up, and the women still have the potential. They still have a lot of the same faces and a lot of the same people who are contributing to this year's team. So the men being able to ride Chad Wright, ride some of the performances that he's going to have this year, and obviously he's going to win points for you at every meet and every team setting. And so being able to just contribute some of those things, take seconds, sneak in some event titles are going to be big for him. But definitely a big weekend down in Alabama. My favorite part of the whole weekend is all of them were confused with the whole Roll Tide concept and just seeing the track and field athletes making jokes about their whole Roll Tide concept and some different things like that. So they're relaxed, they're having fun, they're both doing well, and just sort of see them go south and do that well. I mean, that's big for this week. They're coming back home to Nebraska this weekend, and so that's just going to be something they can build off of. So now we'll move on to men's gymnastics number 4. Right. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit, but this time I actually do mean that we're going to move to men's gymnastics wrapping up.
All right. We saw at the conference meet this weekend, 3 men's Husker men finished in the finals. A few young guys, which is very promising for the team.
Oh yeah, and I think the all three of them are underclassmen. So the Nebraska had 3 gymnasts who finished in the top 3. All of them advanced the team. The team didn't do as well as they should have. They had the lowest team score of the year in the team in the early rounds. They didn't even qualify for the next step. But you saw that the 3 individuals really stepped it up and turned it around from that first night out. And so Grant Perdue, Lewis Klein, and Sam Chamberlain were able to all finish in the top 3. Lewis Klein actually found his way into the second team All Big Ten with his performance on the high bar. Grant Perdue was able to place in 2 of the events, so he got 8th on the floor, 3rd on the vault. And then Sam Chamberlain wrapped up another bars performance, parallel bars, took home the 3rd place performance there. So Sam Chamberlain's freshman, Lewis Klein and Grant Perdue are sophomores. I don't think it's that it's even a question that they're going to contend for these same event titles in years to come. But I think it'd be pretty safe to assume that one, if not all 3 of them, are going to win one of these event titles in the years to come. So some young talent on the Nebraska men's gym team. They did have a great year this year throughout the normal run of everything. But like I said, their team performance just didn't come up to that level, the standard they set for themselves all year. But with this many young faces on the roster, the future is bright. They have the ability to go big. They have the ability to contend with some top 10 teams. They've put up scores that are right there at some of the best in the country this year. So with the young team striving for consistency, I mean, you can see why you might go to a big setting like the conference setting and get kind of overtaken by the moment. But to see them bounce back, to see some young guys finish in the top 3, make it to the All Big Ten teams and things like that, it's pretty impressive for people at that stage. So the men's gymnastics team, obviously, there's still the NCAAs on the horizon, so they'll find out about that fate. But for now, not the team finish they'd like, but they're able to rebound and get some individual finishes and kind of end the Big Ten season on a high note there.
And definitely with some the younger guys, like getting that experience, that's definitely going to come out great in the next year or so for that team.
Oh yeah, and even the experience. I mean, everybody knows that athletes who don't do as well or who fail in some sense. I don't want to say anybody failed, but when you feel like you failed, when you feel like you've left something out there, it just pushes you that much, and they know what it's like. So coming into years, it's not just the experience of being there and competing, with the experience of knowing what it's like if maybe your nerves overtake you or to see things go wrong. So you don't have to say, what if? You know what if. Now it's just how do we deal with it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? So I think that you can see good things coming in the future from what happened this weekend, and they'll look to build off it. All right, we'll wrap up our Corn-Fed 5 here, and we'll go back outdoors. The Nebraska women's tennis team was actually able to get to the Vine Street courts for the first time this year, so I'm just kind of set up that for us here.
All right. First, they actually played at the Nebraska Tennis Center on Friday as they beat number 9 Purdue, just completely dominated a top 20 ranked conference opponent And then finished up the weekend on Sunday at the Vine Street Courts, beating number 32 Indiana, another conference foe that's very good on the year. So the women's team is proving that they are probably the top team in the conference. They're still undefeated at 7-0, and they are 18-3 overall on the season.
Yeah, and I mean they're coming off a record-setting year. They've been up in that, in the top 20 all year. They moved up from the top 10 at one point when they beat Northwestern earlier this year. Being able to bounce back and get a 6-1 win over the 19th team in the country in Purdue, I mean, it's a big deal at any stage. And the way they did it in a couple of different matches, Meriwether Holt gets a 6-0 decision in the second set of her singles match. Patricia Verasova wins in straight sets at number 2 flight. Number 1 flight doubles just kind of steamrolled right through it. So the way they did it from top to bottom against Purdue and then bouncing back against an Indiana team, who actually, I mean, when you look at the rankings right now, Nebraska is sitting, I think they're still 13th, depending on when the new rankings come out. They're still 13th and behind Michigan in the top 10. But Michigan lost to the same Indiana team that Nebraska went out there and, I mean, with relative ease, took care of them. I mean, in the number 5 and 6 flight singles, Indiana was able to get the wins, but Nebraska, I mean, especially in the number 5 flight singles, Nebraska was right there with them, and if they needed that point, I think that could have turned around. So you could potentially see the 6-1, even a sweep if they play up to how all of them normally can. And so just to see them go out the way they did, Meriwether Holt in her match, in her singles match, after going out there and winning doubles 8-0, comes out and falls behind 5-1 in her first set of singles, turns around and wins the next 12 games total to go 7-5, 6-love. And just, I mean, I've never seen uphand. I'm not trying to point out that it's like anything on her fault, but I've never seen a college athlete just get beaten something and just go off and just be emotionally unstable and need to be consoled and look on the verge of tears from just what just happened. And I saw that on Sunday. I saw just what it meant to be mentally tough and to just not give an inch at all. And when you have that kind of leadership at the top from a top 15 singles player and you have a top 15 team as well, you can make a run anywhere, and anybody can take that example. And when you have somebody like that, who I think can contend with anybody in the country, then Nebraska's not just going to look to set another program record with wins, not just going to look to win a conference title, but Nebraska can have even loftier goals, and they can contend with the best in the country. And they got close earlier this year. They almost they almost won their first matchup in the team tournament for the ITAs. But I think they can show on the national stage, and if they have a matchup with Michigan coming up, top 10 team, they can win that. If they can stay perfect in the Big Ten, they can show that they're not just one of the programs moving into the top 10, that they really are a top 10 opponent and they can contend with anybody. Well, that wraps up our Corn-Fed Fire for this morning. I will have a guest here just right after the break, but join us for more Corn-Fed Sports in the morning after this.